In the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers pierced the sky and streets buzzed with life, Special Agent Maya Carter was making waves. At just 29 years old, she had already earned a reputation as one of the brightest minds in the FBI. Her colleagues admired her sharp instincts, relentless determination, and ability to solve cases that left others scratching their heads. But Maya's journey hadn't been easy. As a black woman in a field dominated by men, and often resistant to diversity, she had faced challenges from day one. Maya grew up in a small town where opportunities were scarce, but her parents always encouraged her to dream big. They taught her the value of hard work and resilience, lessons that stuck with her throughout her life. After excelling in school and earning scholarships, Maya pursued a degree in criminal justice. She knew early on that she wanted to make a difference, to fight for justice in a world that didn't always play fair. Joining the FBI felt like the perfect way to do just that. Now, years later, Maya stood at the forefront of a high-profile investigation. The case involved allegations of corruption within the local police department, a scandal that threatened to shake the foundation of law enforcement in the city. It was a sensitive assignment, requiring not only skill but also diplomacy. Maya understood the stakes. If handled poorly, it could lead to further distrust between the community and the police. Yet, she approached the task with confidence, determined to uncover the truth no matter where it led. On her first day at the precinct, Maya walked into a room filled with seasoned officers. Some greeted her warmly, while others barely acknowledged her presence. Whispers rippled through the crowd as she introduced herself. "Special Agent Maya Carter," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the weight of curious stares. "I'm here to assist with the ongoing investigation." Though polite, her introduction was met with mixed reactions. A few officers nodded approvingly, recognizing her credentials and expertise. Others, however, exchanged skeptical glances. One man in particular stood out, a grizzled detective named Ryan Hargrove. With his weathered face and imposing stature, he exuded an air of authority. Hargrove leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his expression dripping with disdain. He muttered something under his breath, loud enough for those nearby to hear, but soft enough to avoid direct confrontation. The comment carried a tone of mockery, hinting at doubts about whether Maya truly belonged in the room. Despite the tension, Maya refused to let it rattle her. She reminded herself why she was there, not to win popularity contests, but to ensure justice prevailed. Still, the subtle hostility gnawed at her. It wasn't the first time she'd encountered such attitudes, and it likely wouldn't be the last. But every challenge only fueled her resolve. Little did anyone know, this case would test her strength in ways she couldn't yet imagine, and reveal truths that would leave everyone speechless. The room fell silent as Maya began her presentation, laying out the initial findings of the investigation. She spoke clearly and confidently, pointing to charts and documents projected on the wall. Her goal was simple: to establish trust and cooperation with the officers who would be working alongside her. But almost immediately, Detective Ryan Hargrove made his presence known. "Hold on a second," he interrupted, leaning forward in his chair with a smirk. "How long have you been with the Bureau again? 3 years? 4? His tone was casual, but there was an edge to it that made everyone in the room uneasy. "Must have been quite the ride getting here so fast. Did they hand you this case because of your qualifications?" He let the word hang in the air, heavy with insinuation. Maya paused, her fingers gripping the edge of the podium. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room on her, some sympathetic, others curious, and a few gleeful at the tension unfolding before them. She took a deep breath, refusing to give Hargrove the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. "My qualifications are well documented, Detective," she replied evenly, "and I'm here because I can get results." Hargrove chuckled, shaking his head as if amused by her response. "Results? Ha! Well, we'll see about that. This isn't some classroom exercise or training program. Out here, it takes real experience to handle things properly." He glanced around the room, seeking approval from his peers. Some looked away, uncomfortable with his behavior, while others nodded faintly, unwilling to challenge him directly. The rest of the briefing continued under a cloud of unease. Every time Maya spoke, Hargrove found a way to interject, questioning her methods, doubting her conclusions, and subtly undermining her authority. By the end of the session, Maya felt drained but determined. She knew exactly what Hargrove was doing, trying to intimidate her into backing down, and while his words stung, she refused to let him win. Later that afternoon, Maya found herself alone in the precinct's break room, sipping a cup of coffee as she reviewed notes for the investigation. The door creaked open, and Hargrove stepped inside. For a moment, he simply stood there, staring at her as though sizing her up. "You know," he began, his voice low and deliberate, "this job isn't for everyone. Some people think they can waltz in and change the system overnight. But the truth is, not everyone belongs here." Maya turned to face him, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I didn't come here to change the system overnight," she said calmly. "I came here to do my job, to find the truth and hold people accountable. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why." For the first time, Hargrove seemed taken aback. He opened his mouth as if to respond, then thought better of it. Instead, he gave her a dismissive look and left the room, slamming the door behind him. Maya exhaled slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she set the coffee mug down. She hated moments like these, not because they scared her, but because they reminded her how much work still needed to be done. Despite the hostility, Maya couldn't afford to let it distract her. The case was too important, and the stakes were too high. As she returned to her notes, she reminded herself of something her father used to say: "When someone tries to knock you down, let your strength be the thing that surprises them." With renewed focus, Maya vowed to prove Hargrove wrong, not through words, but through action. What he didn't realize yet was that his attempts to humiliate her might just lead to his own undoing. Late one evening, as the precinct buzzed with quiet activity, Maya sat at her desk surrounded by stacks of files and photographs. The case was coming together piece by piece, but every new discovery seemed to deepen the web of corruption she was unraveling. Lisa Torres had become an invaluable ally, providing not only evidence but also moral support during moments when Maya felt overwhelmed. Together, they worked tirelessly, determined to expose the truth. As Maya reviewed the photos Lisa had shared earlier, images of Hargrove arguing heatedly with a man tied to illegal operations, a thought struck her. If Hargrove believed he could intimidate her into silence or failure, what better way to turn the tables than by using his own arrogance against him? She leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against the desk as a plan began to form in her mind. "Lisa," Maya said suddenly, breaking the silence between them, "do you think you can get closer to Hargrove without raising suspicion?" Lisa frowned, tilting her head slightly. "What do you mean?" Maya explained carefully. "I need someone on the inside, someone who can observe his behavior, maybe even gather more evidence without him realizing it. You've been careful so far, and he doesn't seem to view you as a threat. Could you keep an eye on him? Report anything unusual." Lisa hesitated, clearly uneasy about getting too close to someone as volatile as Hargrove, but after a moment she nodded. "If it means helping bring him down, I'll do it. Just tell me what to look for." Relieved by Lisa's willingness to help, Maya outlined specific details: any late-night meetings, suspicious phone calls, or interactions with individuals linked to criminal activity. "And if you ever feel unsafe, pull back immediately," Maya added firmly. "Your safety comes first." Over the next few days, Lisa kept Maya updated on Hargrove's movements. One evening, she reported seeing him slip out of the precinct shortly after receiving a call from an unknown number. Following discreetly, she watched as he met with the same man from the warehouse photos outside a dimly lit diner. They spoke briefly before parting ways, but Lisa managed to snap a few pictures from a distance. When she showed the images to Maya the next morning, both women exchanged knowing glances. It was clear now that Hargrove wasn't just involved. He was deeply entrenched in the corruption they were investigating. Armed with this knowledge, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. Each clue brought her closer to dismantling the network, and each step forward reinforced her belief that justice would prevail. That night, as Maya prepared to leave the precinct, she found herself reflecting on the journey so far. The road had been difficult, filled with resistance and prejudice, but she wasn't alone. Officers like Lisa reminded her that change was possible when people stood together. Even those who once doubted her were beginning to see her strength, not just as an investigator, but as a leader. Before heading home, Maya stopped by Lisa's desk to thank her again. "You have no idea how much your help means to me," she said sincerely. "This case wouldn't be where it is without you." Lisa smiled shyly. "Honestly, Agent Carter, I should be thanking you. Watching you handle everything, Hargrove's insults, the pressure of the case, it makes me want to be better, to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." Maya placed a hand on Lisa's shoulder, her expression softening. "That's all anyone can ask for, to try their best and never give up. Keep doing that, and you'll inspire others too. That's how we make real change." As she walked out into the cool night air, Maya felt a surge of hope. Hargrove might have underestimated her, but his arrogance would soon become his downfall. With allies like Lisa by her side and evidence mounting against him, Maya knew the tide was turning. Justice wasn't just about solving cases, it was about proving that integrity, resilience, and unity could overcome even the darkest forces. And she was ready to show the world exactly what that looked like. In the weeks following Hargrove's arrest, the precinct underwent a transformation. The scandal had shaken everyone, forcing officers to confront uncomfortable truths about corruption and accountability within their ranks. Some resented the spotlight, feeling unfairly judged for the actions of one bad apple. Others, however, saw it as an opportunity to rebuild trust, not just with the community but also among themselves. Maya became a central figure in this process. Her leadership during the investigation earned widespread respect, even from those who had once doubted her. Officers began approaching her not only for guidance on cases, but also for advice on navigating difficult conversations about race, bias, and integrity. Maya welcomed these moments, knowing they were steps toward meaningful change. She didn't have all the answers, but she believed that open dialogue was the foundation of progress. One afternoon, Captain Reynolds, the precinct's commanding officer, called Maya into his office. He gestured for her to sit, his expression unusually soft. "Agent Carter," he began, leaning back in his chair, "I owe you an apology. When you first arrived here, I let my doubts get the better of me. I questioned whether someone so young, and frankly, someone who looked different from most of us, could handle a case like this. But you proved me wrong." Maya listened quietly, surprised by his candor. "Thank you, Captain," she replied after a pause. "But this isn't about me. It's about doing what's right, for the department, for the community, and for ourselves." Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. "You're absolutely right. And that's why I'm asking you to stay on a little longer. We need your voice in this rebuilding effort. Your perspective is invaluable." Though flattered, Maya knew her primary role was with the FBI. Still, she agreed to assist in training sessions aimed at fostering transparency and inclusivity within the department. Over time, these workshops sparked important discussions, helping officers recognize how biases could influence their work and how to combat them. Outside the precinct, Maya's story resonated deeply with the public. Community leaders praised her resilience and professionalism, holding her up as an example of courage in the face of adversity. Invitations poured in for speaking engagements, interviews, and panel discussions. At first, Maya hesitated, unsure if she wanted to step into the spotlight. But Lisa encouraged her, reminding her of the impact she could have. "People need to hear your story," Lisa said earnestly, "not because you're perfect, but because you kept going when things got hard." When Maya finally accepted an invitation to speak at a local university, the auditorium was packed. Students, faculty, and community members filled every seat, eager to learn from her experience. As she stood behind the podium, Maya felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This wasn't just another presentation. It was a chance to inspire others to stand firm in their convictions. "I won't pretend it was easy," she admitted, her voice steady yet warm. "There were days when I wondered if I belonged in that room, or in this career. But I reminded myself why I started. To fight for justice, no matter the obstacles. And along the way, I realized something important. It's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can rise above negativity and make a difference." The audience erupted into applause, many rising to their feet. Afterward, dozens lined up to thank her personally, sharing their own stories of struggle and perseverance. Maya left the event feeling reinvigorated, reminded of the power of connection and shared purpose. Back home that night, Maya reflected on everything she'd been through. The journey hadn't been without scars. Moments of doubt, frustration, and pain lingered. But each challenge had shaped her into someone stronger and more determined. She thought about her parents, who had taught her the value of resilience, and smiled, imagining their pride. As she turned off the light and climbed into bed, Maya allowed herself a rare moment of peace. The fight wasn't over. There would always be battles ahead. But tonight, she chose to celebrate the victories. Justice might be a long road, but with every step forward, she proved that integrity, unity, and hope could shine even in the darkest corners. And that, she realized, was worth everything. The day of the press conference arrived, and the atmosphere at the precinct was electric. Reporters from local news stations, national outlets, and even a few bloggers crowded into the room, eager to hear updates on the high-profile corruption case. The investigation had drawn significant attention, not only because of its implications for law enforcement, but also due to the growing tension surrounding Maya's presence in the department. Word had spread about Detective Hargrove's behavior, and many were curious to see how it would all unfold. Maya stood backstage, reviewing her notes one final time. She felt a mix of nerves and determination as she prepared to address the public. This wasn't just another briefing. It was an opportunity to expose the truth and hold those involved accountable. Beside her, Lisa offered quiet encouragement. "You've got this, Agent Carter," she whispered with a reassuring smile. "Just stay focused." As Maya stepped onto the podium, flashes burst from cameras, and reporters leaned forward in anticipation. She scanned the room briefly, spotting Hargrove near the front row. He sat with his arms crossed, a smug expression plastered across his face, clearly confident that he'd emerge unscathed. Maya took a deep breath, then began speaking. "Good afternoon, everyone," she started, her voice steady and commanding. "Today, I'm here to provide an update on our ongoing investigation into allegations of corruption within the police department. Over the past several weeks, we have uncovered substantial evidence pointing to illegal activities involving members of law enforcement and organized crime syndicates. These findings are deeply troubling, as they undermine public trust and compromise the integrity of those sworn to protect us." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "Among the individuals implicated in these activities is Detective Ryan Hargrove." At the mention of his name, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hargrove stiffened visibly, his smirk fading as he realized what was happening. Maya pressed on, projecting images of the incriminating evidence onto a large screen behind her. Photographs of Hargrove meeting with known criminals, records of suspicious financial transactions, and testimonies from witnesses who had come forward. This evidence demonstrates a pattern of misconduct and collusion, Maya explained, her tone firm yet composed. Detective Hargrove has abused his position of authority to facilitate criminal enterprises, betraying both his colleagues and the community he serves. Hargrove shot to his feet, his face flushed with anger. "This is outrageous," he shouted, pointing a finger at Maya. "She's fabricating lies to cover her own incompetence. You can't trust anything she says." The room erupted into chaos as reporters scrambled to capture the confrontation. But Maya remained unfazed, turning her gaze directly toward him. "If you're innocent, detective, then there's no need to panic," she said coolly. "However, if your actions speak louder than your words, perhaps it's time for you to answer for them." Her calm demeanor only seemed to infuriate him further. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" he spat, "coming in here, throwing around accusations without proof." "I assure you," Maya interrupted, raising her voice slightly to regain control of the room, "the proof speaks for itself. And if you'd like to dispute it, I suggest doing so in a court of law rather than attempting to discredit me publicly." For a moment, Hargrove looked as though he might lunge at her, but instead, he clenched his fists and stormed out of the room, leaving behind a stunned audience. Reporters bombarded Maya with questions, their pens flying furiously over notebooks as they tried to keep up with the unfolding drama. Backstage after the conference, Lisa approached Maya, her eyes wide with admiration. "That was incredible," she said breathlessly. "You completely dismantled him." Maya exhaled slowly, finally allowing herself to feel a sense of relief. "It's not over yet," she replied. "But today we took a big step toward justice. Let's hope it sends a message to anyone else thinking they're above the law." As the two women walked out together, Maya couldn't help but reflect on the significance of the moment. Turning the tables on Hargrove hadn't just been about proving him wrong. It was about showing the world that resilience and integrity could overcome even the most entrenched prejudices. And now, the entire city was watching as the truth came to light. The fallout from the press conference was immediate and explosive. Within hours, news outlets across the city, and soon the nation, were buzzing about Detective Ryan Hargrove's alleged involvement in corruption. Social media erupted with hashtags like #JusticeForMaya and #ExposeCorruption as people debated the implications of the case. For many, it wasn't just about one corrupt officer. It was a symbol of systemic issues that had long plagued law enforcement. Hargrove, however, wasn't ready to go down without a fight. Later that evening, he appeared on a local talk show, attempting to spin the narrative in his favor. Dressed sharply and flanked by an aggressive defense attorney, he launched into a tirade, accusing Maya of targeting him because of personal bias. "This is nothing more than a witch hunt," he declared, his voice dripping with indignation. "Agent Carter has made it clear she doesn't respect this department or its officers. She's using her position to settle scores, not to seek justice." But the public wasn't buying it. Clips of Maya's composed performance at the press conference were shared repeatedly online, juxtaposed against Hargrove's increasingly erratic behavior. Viewers noted how calm and factual she had been, presenting irrefutable evidence while Hargrove resorted to insults and denial. Even some of his own colleagues began distancing themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone under such intense scrutiny. By the next morning, the pressure mounted. Internal Affairs launched an urgent investigation into Hargrove's conduct, seizing his financial records and interviewing witnesses named in Maya's presentation. Meanwhile, federal authorities stepped in, ensuring that no stone was left unturned. It became clear that Hargrove's web of deceit extended far beyond what anyone had initially suspected. Connections to money laundering, bribery, and even violent criminal enterprises came to light, painting a damning picture of his actions over the years. As the evidence piled up, Hargrove's bravado began to crumble. Reporters camped outside his home, capturing footage of him pacing anxiously behind closed curtains. His once confident demeanor gave way to paranoia, and whispers circulated that he was trying to cut deals with prosecutors in exchange for leniency. But it was too late. The damage was done. The weight of his crimes was catching up with him, and there was no escape. A few days later, Hargrove was formally arrested during a raid on his home. Handcuffed and led out in front of flashing cameras, he looked disheveled and defeated. Neighbors gawked as reporters shouted questions, but Hargrove remained silent, avoiding eye contact. Back at the precinct, officers gathered around televisions to watch the live coverage, their expressions ranging from shock to satisfaction. Some clapped quietly when the news anchor announced the charges against him: conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and multiple counts of corruption. For Maya, watching the arrest unfold felt surreal. She sat in her office, surrounded by congratulatory messages from colleagues and community members alike. Yet, despite the victory, she didn't feel triumphant. Instead, she felt a deep sense of responsibility. Bringing down Hargrove wasn't just about punishing one man. It was about sending a message that accountability mattered. That no one, regardless of rank or power, was above the law. Later that day, Lisa stopped by Maya's desk, holding a cup of coffee. "You did it," she said softly, handing it over. "He can't hurt anyone anymore." Maya accepted the cup with a small smile. "We did it," she corrected gently. "None of this would have been possible without your help, and the courage of others who stood up, even when it was hard." Lisa nodded, sitting down across from her. "Do you think things will change now? I mean, really change?" Maya thought for a moment before answering. "Change takes time," she admitted. "But exposing the truth is always the first step. People are talking about these issues now, demanding better from their leaders. That's progress. And if we keep pushing, maybe we can create a system where everyone feels safe and respected, whether they're wearing a badge or living in the community." As the sun set over the city skyline, Maya glanced out the window, her mind filled with possibilities. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew one thing for certain. Justice wasn't just about winning battles, it was about inspiring hope. And today, thanks to her determination and the support of allies like Lisa, hope had won. The tension between Maya and Detective Hargrove only grew thicker as the days passed. Every time they crossed paths, he seemed to find a new way to needle her. Whether it was questioning her decisions in front of other officers or dismissing her contributions during meetings, Hargrove made it clear that he had no intention of letting her succeed. But Maya refused to let his behavior distract her. She focused on the case, determined to prove that professionalism and integrity would always outweigh hostility. One afternoon, after hours spent reviewing evidence with Lisa Torres, Maya decided to grab a quick lunch before returning to work. As she walked down the precinct hallway, tray in hand, she spotted Hargrove standing near the coffee machine, chatting casually with another officer. When he noticed her approaching, his demeanor shifted instantly. His lips curled into a smirk, and he turned toward her as if waiting for an opportunity to strike. Well, Hargrove said loudly enough for nearby officers to hear. "Look who's here. Special Agent Carter, taking a break from failing upward." He chuckled at his own joke, but the laughter sounded forced, almost desperate. "You know, I've seen rookies with more experience than you. Maybe you should stick to filing paperwork instead of pretending you're cut out for this." Maya stopped mid-step, her grip tightening slightly on the tray. The comment stung, not because it was true, but because it tapped into memories of similar remarks she'd faced throughout her career. For a moment, she considered walking away without responding. After all, engaging with him would only give him the satisfaction of knowing he got under her skin. But something inside her pushed back, a quiet voice reminding her that silence sometimes allowed bullies to win. She set the tray down on a nearby table and turned to face him directly. "Detective Hargrove," she began, her tone calm but firm, "if your goal is to intimidate me, you're wasting your time. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to do my job. And if you have a problem with how I'm doing it, maybe you should focus less on personal attacks and more on solving the case." Hargrove blinked, caught off guard by her response. He hadn't expected her to stand her ground so confidently. Recovering quickly, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low growl. "You think you're untouchable, don't you? Coming in here like you own the place, acting like you're better than everyone else. But mark my words, you'll slip up sooner or later. And when you do, I'll be there to watch you fall." His word hung heavy in the air, but Maya didn't flinch. Instead, she met his gaze steadily, refusing to let him see any hint of fear or doubt. If I slip up, detective, it won't be because of anything you say or do. It'll be because I made a mistake. And if that happens, I'll own it. Something tells me you wouldn't know what that feels like." For a split second, Hargrove looked genuinely rattled. Then, brushing past her, he muttered something under his breath and stormed off, leaving behind a trail of awkward silence. Officers who had witnessed the exchange exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to applaud Maya's composure or pity her for having to deal with someone like Hargrove. As Maya picked up her tray and continued toward the break room, she couldn't help but replay the confrontation in her mind. His words echoed painfully, stirring old insecurities she thought she'd buried long ago. Yet beneath the hurt, a spark of determination burned brighter than ever. Hargrove's attempts to humiliate her weren't just about racism or sexism. They were about power. He wanted to control the narrative, to make her feel small and insignificant. But every insult, every jab, only fueled her resolve to prove him wrong. Back in the break room, Lisa found Maya staring out the window, lost in thought. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, placing a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. Maya nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine. Honestly, I've dealt with worse. People like him, they feed on reactions. The best thing I can do is stay focused and show him that his games don't affect me." Lisa hesitated, then added softly, "He doesn't deserve your energy. Just keep doing what you're doing, Agent Carter. You're already inspiring people, whether he likes it or not." Maya's smile widened, gratitude washing over her. In moments like these, surrounded by allies who believed in her, she felt unstoppable. Hargrove could throw all the insults he wanted, but she knew one truth. Justice wasn't about winning arguments or proving superiority. It was about standing firm in the face of adversity and letting the truth speak for itself. And that was exactly what she intended to do. The next morning, Maya arrived at the precinct earlier than usual. She wanted to dive into the case before the chaos of the day set in. Sitting at a small desk tucked into a corner of the bustling room, she spread out files, photographs, and notes across the surface. The investigation was complex, with threads leading in multiple directions, but Maya thrived under pressure. Her sharp mind worked like a puzzle solver's, piecing together fragments of information until they formed a clearer picture. As she sifted through evidence, two officers approached her desk, Officer Greg Miller and Officer Sarah Chen. Both were younger members of the precinct, eager to make their mark, but often overshadowed by more senior detectives like Hargrove. They had been assigned to assist Maya on the case, and while they initially kept their distance, unsure how to act around someone so accomplished yet controversial, they quickly warmed up to her professionalism and dedication. "We've gone over some of the financial records you asked for," Greg said, sliding a folder toward her. "There are irregularities here, money moving between accounts that shouldn't be connected. Most of it traces back to businesses linked to organized crime." Maya nodded, her eyes scanning the documents. "Good work. This is exactly what we need to build our case." She glanced up at them. "Keep digging. If these funds are tied to corruption within the department, we'll find the people responsible." Sarah hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly. "Agent Carter, I know this might not be my place, but Detective Hargrove, he's involved in some shady stuff. Everyone knows it, but no one says anything because he's got connections." Maya leaned back in her chair, studying Sarah carefully. "What kind of shady stuff?" "Well," Sarah glanced around, lowering her voice even further. "He's been seen meeting with people who run illegal operations downtown, and there are rumors about bribes, cops turning a blind eye to certain activities in exchange for cash. But no one has proof." Maya's jaw tightened. It wasn't surprising, given Hargrove's behavior, but hearing it confirmed stung nonetheless. Still, she couldn't afford to act impulsively. "Thank you for telling me," she said firmly. "But we can't move forward without concrete evidence. Keep your ears open and let me know if you hear anything else." As the day wore on, Maya found herself reflecting on Sarah's words. Hargrove's hostility suddenly made more sense. If he was corrupt, her presence posed a direct threat to him. Exposing his involvement could unravel everything he'd built over the years. Yet going after him too soon would risk tipping him off and jeopardizing the larger investigation. She needed to tread carefully, gathering enough evidence to ensure his downfall wouldn't just be personal, it would be undeniable. Later that evening, as the precinct emptied out, Maya stayed late, poring over the new leads. Each document, each transaction, seemed to point closer to Hargrove. But something nagged at her. Why would someone as calculating as him leave such obvious trails? Was he arrogant enough to believe he was untouchable, or was this all part of a bigger game? Her thoughts were interrupted when Officer Lisa Torres walked in, carrying a stack of folders. Lisa was relatively new to the force, quiet and observant, often overlooked by her peers. She hesitated near Maya's desk, unsure whether to speak. Sensing her hesitation, Maya looked up and smiled warmly. "Something on your mind, Officer Torres?" Lisa nodded, glancing over her shoulder to make sure they were alone. "I heard what Hargrove said to you earlier, about doubting your credentials and all that. I just wanted to say, I think you're doing great. You don't deserve that kind of treatment." Maya appreciated the sentiment but shrugged it off lightly. "Thanks, Lisa. But right now, I'm focused on the case. We have bigger things to worry about than his attitude." Lisa hesitated again, then added, "Actually, I might have something that could help. I saw Hargrove arguing with someone last week, a man who runs a warehouse tied to those illegal operations Sarah mentioned. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Do you remember anything specific? Anything that could tie him directly to the corruption?" Lisa nodded. "I took photos. I thought it was strange, so I documented it. I wasn't sure what to do with them, but maybe you can use them." For the first time in days, Maya felt a flicker of hope. This was the break she needed. As Lisa handed over the photos, Maya realized that Hargrove's arrogance might become his greatest weakness. With every piece of evidence falling into place, she began to see a path forward, not just for justice, but for proving that integrity could triumph over prejudice.